Okay, so Araceli,
Welcome,
we're here.
fellow book lovers, to our two-person book club, where Lily and Araceli interact with the book, where you get to know a little bit about us and hopefully a little bit about you. Let's dive in, Lily. Let's tell them what this book is about.
This month, or the last, who knows, few weeks, we're reading Kristin Hannah, The Women. A very thick book.
Yes.
Historical fiction.
Over 400 pages.
400 pages. Not your typical book for me. I don't read this genre, but I found it enjoyable. Do you want to read your intro there?
I did.
Oh, you did?
I just did. Yes.
So let me read a very quick summary. Sorry, I have to take off my glasses. The Women is the story of one woman gone to war, but it shines a light on all women who put themselves in harm's way and whose sacrifice and commitment to their country has too often been forgotten. A novel about deep friendships and bold patriotism, The Women is a richly drawn story with a memorable heroine story whose idealism and courage under fire will come to define an era. I don't know about you, but there were a lot of tears.
Yes, we cried
Lots
a lot.
of tears. And
I have to admit that, and I told Lily this when we were first reading, for me, it's the infamous page 20 that brought me to tears. The way the connection between the brother and the sister in the story is described reminds me of my own kids, who are also 10 years apart.
Really?
Yeah. 9.5 years apart. So typically when you see book clubs, people discuss themes, but Lily and I do it a little differently. We just go page by page.
yeah.
And we like to dive in and talk about certain quotes that we see and what they remind us of. So we're going to go right to it.
Our notes.
Yes.
Our crazy notes.
She's pink, I'm blue.
Whatever's around.
Yes. And truth be told, yes.
Yes, whatever I can find. So
You started soon. You started early.
I have at page 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to take out my glasses. It's embarrassing. Page 4. It says, similar to our childhood, safer though. I don't know why. Oh, yeah. So I wrote something about...
Yeah, of course. Got it.
Similar to our childhood, safer. I think it was because it says... What does it say? Yikes. Oh, yeah.
It's been a while since we've read it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Something about long California summers unsupervised by adults riding their bikes from one end of sleepy Coronado Island to the other, rarely coming home before nightfall. I feel like that's how it was when we were kids, where you could go out, play with the neighbors, and you come home whenever you came home, right? Before dinner time, by dinner time. Now, though, I feel like there are less kids out in neighborhoods playing with their kids, riding their bikes. I think there's maybe screen time has to do with it, their devices. I don't know. I just...
Totally unrelated to the book, but I just read an article about how toy sales have gone down significantly, and the only toy that still sells is Legos.
I love that.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
helps with fine motor skills.
But I think you're right. Kids are not playing anymore, and it's sad.
Yeah.
It's definitely changed.
Yeah, definitely. So where are you at?
I'm at 14.
14. Okay. Go for it.
Yes, go
We
for it.
might
Okay.
have the same one.
Okay. Yes,
As it happens sometimes.
I think it does.
Yes.
Yes, it's the same one. Sometimes we agree.
Love that.
I think the theme here is courage, right, Lily? Do you want to go for it, or you want me to do it? How did you know if you had the strength and courage for a thing like that, especially as a woman raised to be a lady whose courage has been untested? So my question was, does anyone know if they have the strength and courage for anything? Or do you just find out as you live life? And I think here it was about becoming a soldier as a woman, right? We haven't, maybe we did not tell you, but this story is based in during the Vietnam War. So it's in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s. So yes, times are definitely different from back then for women. Things have changed.
Yeah.
So that is why I highlighted that quote.
Yeah, and I wrote, would you ever enlist? And I think it was a question for us. It was, I think when she was looking at the Heroes Wall, is that what it was?
Yes.
Her family's home. there's a heroes wall and there's pictures of men from her family that have served, and she wants to be there. But yet women were not on this heroes wall. And she said, I could serve my country. And so would you ever? Did you ever think about it? Is it something you no? Okay, that was a hard no.
It's a hard no.
It's hard no. Yeah, it's not something. No.
And I think you also have to, if it's a part of your history as a family. I know, some families like this one, they're bred to serve in the military.
Yeah.
She mentioned her father and her grandfather and her brother, so it was a part of her daily, life of her family history.
Yeah.
In my case, nobody. Other than my dad, who had to serve his 2 years in the army because it was required.
Yeah.
But nobody has voluntarily been gone. So no, I never even
and
thought
she
like
seems
that.
very eager and very proud to do that, and in the middle of a war.
And I think the other thing too is we think that if you enlist, it's to be a soldier, but there's many other roles that active service members play. In her case, she's a nurse. Right? And that's what she's going to do over there. She's going to, think about it. Who's going to treat all those wounded soldiers? Like, why don't we think about that?
Yeah.
Just think somebody's, they're obviously going to get injured.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
And they're heroes all the same.
Yes, they're also heroes.
Yeah.
The page before 20.
The page before
I cried.
The tears happened.
I put here, is she a realist or a cynic? Or, yes, she says, I forget who she's talking to, but she says, and you think you'll never go over there and see your brother? Oh, her mom is talking to her when she finds out that she signed up.
Yeah.
Her parents are devastated. So her mom has this conversation with her and tells her, do you really think that you're going to go over there and see your brother and have an adventure? How could you be so stupid?
Yeah.
That's her mother's reaction. And so my question was, is she being a cynic or is she being a realist? Because, really, is that what she thought?
That's what I thought too. Like, why would you think
that you're going to go hang out with your brother?
Yeah.
In a war zone.
Go see him in a war zone, Vietnam.
So she's very naive.
End up in the same place.
Yeah. So.
And is that why she enlisted, just to be with her brother?
I think that was a big deciding factor. I think, like you said, it was partly because she wanted to be with her brother, and partly because she wanted to be recognized like her brother by her family.
Yeah.
And partly because she's like, what else do I do with my life?
Because at that time it was. Yeah. You don't go beyond high school, right? You're a homeowner. You're a home wife, taking care of the children. What page are you?
23.
Okay.
So I wrote here something about the uniform and how it's a subtle oppression. Unlike the men, the uniform that the men wear compared to the uniform that the women wear. So she says, unlike the men dressed in their comfortable olive drab fatigues, neatly bloused inside black boots, Frankie was required to travel in her Class A uniform, a green jacket, a slim skirt, nylons, polished black pumps, and a flat garrison hat. And beneath all of that, a regulation panty girdle to keep her nylon stockings up. Wow. So, and she talks about how uncomfortable she felt during the whole trip, all the way to Vietnam, from Coronado Island in San Diego.
With a plane full of men.
Yes.
Right?
How unrealistic it is to expect a woman to be in a war zone dressed like that.
Yeah. And do you think that's still the case today?
I think that for official business, they do wear skirts, but like in the war zone, it's more practical now.
Yeah.
But it just shows you how things have changed in the past 50 years, right? For the better, I guess, in this case.
Yeah, I have 25.
I'm at 24. I wrote, is this why we are an anxious society? Chaos and ignorance. Let me see what made me say this. She reached into her black regulation handbag, pulled out her information packet, and reread it for the 1,000th time. Repetition and knowledge had always calmed her, and she was determined to be an exemplary soldier, as she'd been a student. So repetition calms her. So then I thought the opposite, right? Are we an anxious society because right now we're surrounded by chaos and ignorance, the opposite of repetition, as she mentions here, and knowledge.
Yeah.
So that was just my, I don't know if it's true, but it made me think, well, then if we have the opposite, then we do have anxiety, 50 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are an anxious society.
Yeah, we are. Still are. And I wrote this generation. I'm not sure why, but I wrote everything made. I didn't write it. Everything made sense to her in the army. Rules existed for a reason, and you followed them to maintain order and help each other. The system was designed to force soldiers, men and women, into conformity, to build teams. It could save your life, apparently, fitting in, being part of something larger, knowing your job, and doing it without question. She was comfortable with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's the case now, where, I don't know if the younger generation are like, no rules. I don't want to do that. I don't want to follow that. I want to do the opposite.
Mm-hmm. They don't want to
tell me what to do. So yeah, it's just different times.
For sure.
Different time.
Okay. I jumped way ahead, Lily, to 88. I don't know. I'm sure you have some before.
Yeah, I do. Oh, no. Just, what did O Club stand for? That's where they would go and
dance.
And dance. And
try to forget.
After a long day, and it's a song. The song's listed, though.
Oh, yeah.
Fun.
And while you keep going, you mentioned music, how music is very telling of the times we live in, of a certain generation, right?
Yeah.
It's true. That was a big part of the book.
It was, and they would, when they were in the O Club dancing after a long day's work, it's almost like it took them away from...
It's an escape mechanism.
Yes.
It also triggers memories of certain dates, times, places.
Yes. Yeah.
Just in general, not just in the book.
Yeah, exactly. The next one I wrote, page 103.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote 103. Ouch. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, you have something before.
On 88.
88. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It is a strange world we are all in. Volatile and uncertain. We Americans, can't seem to talk to each other anymore. Our disagreements seem insurmountable. I just wrote, we're like that now in 2025.
Yeah.
It was, word by word, it's exactly what we're living, the kind of world we're living in now.
Almost like it's looping back.
Yes, history repeats itself, they say.
This is true.
You said 100 and something.
103.
Okay, same.
Yeah, oh my gosh, maybe I wrote ouch.
And I wrote ugly truths of wars. But let's see.
I don't know why.
Is it a silence fell between them? In it lay the ugly truth that none of them wanted to face. The village was in South Vietnam, and only the Americans had bombs.
Yeah.
So as a soldier, you discover that, not everything that you're there for is in defense of your people.
Yeah.
But, that you're also responsible for the deaths of innocents.
Yeah.
And that is war.
Yeah, and I remember her thinking, back home in America, they only tell you certain parts of the war, and she was there saying, "Oh my gosh, this is not what they're telling me. This is not the truth." And so she's learning that some of these villages were being bombed not by their own people, but by American bombs.
And how do you keep fighting for a country that is taking actions that you're against?
Yeah, already there. You're already there.
Yeah.
I don't know, we didn't mention this, but by this time, she knows that her brother was killed already.
You're right.
Well, she learned this before going in.
That's true.
She was already signed.
She had already signed,
right? There's no going back.
Yeah.
She's going there. And I'm sure once she got there, she figured there was no way she was going to see her brother there.
Yeah, that is true.
So, yeah. She had to be there pretty much on her own, seeing all this. So, what do you have next?
Not this one because I'm on camera now. 119. No.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, go for it. Ethics. I wrote. I should have what? What should she have done? What could she have done? Love mattered in this ruined world, but so did honor. What was one without the other? He was married, and Frankie knew he loved his wife. You're strong, she said, her voice strained. So this is where she meets Jamie, the doctor, who is married, but they have feelings for each other.
They do.
And so I wrote, what is the ethical thing to do? Because I think she goes back and forth between, do I have a thing with him? Do I have a fling?
Yeah.
This is a war zone. Is everything allowed here? Like, what if you die tomorrow?
What if you die tomorrow?
Yes. Which is what happened with him.
Right.
He did.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, he didn't die, but he was gravely injured.
Yeah.
And then he was out of her life. And she lost that. She lost that opportunity, right?
She did.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
so.
But she didn't. She didn't.
She didn't have an affair with him.
No, she didn't.
But yes, you wonder, is it that black and white? I guess.
Yeah.
In times of war.
Yeah.
Or are the rules different?
Yeah.
Can you cheat?
Can you cheat? Are you allowed to cheat?
Yes, are you allowed to cheat because you could lose your life the next day. We're not answering questions. We're just asking them.
We're just
putting that out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. YOLO, right?
YOLO. So 181.
Oh no, I'm 152.
Okay.
It says the power of words. What if it was a woman that said it? Which one? Oh, this is when I think they go back and talk about how Finley,
her
brother's. Oh wait, Finley's her brother, right?
Yes.
Oh, Riley. Her brother's best friend was telling her women can be heroes.
Oh, yeah.
That's something that she goes back to often, right? Women can be heroes. And those words, his words to an impressionable 20-year-old had led her inevitably to this room, this war. It felt like fate, them meeting here. So she sees him again somewhere, right? When they were at war.
Yeah.
At a party or something, or before that. I don't remember.
Because he was a pilot, so he flew in and out of wherever they were at.
Yeah. So his words, women can be heroes. She took that with her and said, I can do this. Then she went to enlist. And I just wrote the power of words. What if it was a woman that said it?
If it had been, for example, her mother,
her
somebody
friend,
else, would she have done
it?
That's true. And also the power of words again, right? How something, you say one sentence and how it can impact somebody and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know how powerful what you say can be.
Maybe at that time Riley said it like, oh yeah, you can do it too.
Yeah.
Without knowing like she was actually going to go for it.
That was a very decisive factor in her decision.
So, was he surprised to see her there? I'm sure, right?
I don't remember what that first meeting. I think he was. He was.
Yeah. And he was a different person there too, I think. Yeah. What page?
I'm on 180. You're still
163. The betrayal was shocking as the assassination of Kennedy had been an upheaval of right and wrong. The American Frankie believed in the shining Camelot of her youth was gone or lost. Or maybe it had always been alive. Her name is Frankie, by the way. We didn't mention this.
Our protagonist.
Was the American dream a lie? Or is anything better than home? I don't know why I wrote that.
Yeah.
I don't know why I wrote that, honestly. But I think, like I said, they were making it seem like it was okay back home.
Yeah.
But then once she got there, it's like, that's not the case.
So this paragraph that you just read talks about how the soldiers feel betrayed because they came into this war with a certain narrative that was told to them, and only to find out that there were a lot. They used the word betrayal, right? That they didn't know a lot of the information was withheld. And again, we just said it earlier, right? How do you fight for a country that is lying to you? And you can't get out. You already signed.
Yeah.
So beware when you sign.
And funny that you mentioned about signing because Frankie went in there to do one term, which was a year, I believe, right?
Oh yeah, and then she stayed.
I'm not sure if we're there yet or not, but she actually enlisted for another year. And I was like, well, why are you doing that again?
Yeah.
After 1 year.
Yeah.
It was
I think because, I guess she saw the need and the shortage of nurses, but still.
Yeah.
What would we do?
Yeah. Yeah. 166. What would you do? I don't know what another one. If she learned anything during her tour, it was this: say that you meant while you could. You're engaged, she said, and I know the old-fashioned, but I can't be the other woman. I wouldn't live with myself. And it goes back again. I think it's Jamie again.
Is this? No, this is already Rye.
Is it Rye? It is Rye.
Because Jamie was married. Rye was engaged, supposedly.
Yes. He was engaged.
Yes.
Yes, I'm getting them confused.
Yes.
She has conflicting feelings for these two men, right?
Yes.
He stepped back and said, you're right. Merry Christmas Eve, Frankie. I won't bother you again. And she said, you don't need to go. And he said, yes, I do. You do something to me. And so, and that was that.
Yeah.
And she remembers saying, you do something to me. And so he left. And it's like, again, what would you do?
So just to get our timeline straight.
Yes.
So she arrives, she meets Jamie, the doctor.
Yes.
He's married, but they clearly have feelings for each other, but they don't act on them.
No.
Because she keeps saying that's not the kind of woman she is. Mm-hmm. Jamie leaves. Remember, he's injured and he leaves. And so a short time later, Rye shows up, the helicopter pilot. And so she's falling for this guy too, who was friends with her brother back in San Diego.
She, I think, kind of had a crush on him, right? Because he is a bit older than her. Yeah.
And so, but this one's engaged. So again, she's like, why am I meeting the wrong guy every time? And again, she refuses to act on this attraction, but she also remembers, well, she let Jamie go.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where we're at right now in the story.
Yeah.
Like, is she going to act differently? Is she going to let this guy go too, even though he's engaged?
Yeah.
168?
160. I have 168.
Yes. A letter. Somebody wrote a letter.
Yeah, it was
Barb.
Friend Barb.
One of the nurses.
One of the nurses. When she got there, she befriended two nurses that were her roommates, and they became really, really, really good friends. They had been there longer than she had. One was gone. Barb was still there, but she was leaving and didn't wake her up to say goodbye to her because it was hard for her to say goodbye. And she left her a letter. And this was another where I cried because as reading this, she's telling her, and I wrote, is making me think about leaving. For example, if I were to leave work, it wouldn't be just work. It would be leaving my coworkers.
That's true.
And how do you say goodbye to 20-year-old friendships?
Yeah.
Right? And so
and a lifetime of service.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah. So
that's a good point.
It was hard to read because she was very, very sad. And even then she enlists after.
And you can't replicate that friendship, right? We have different stages in friendships. You go to college, the dorm experience.
Yes.
Even if you keep in touch, it's not the same as when you were in that place at that time with those shared experiences.
Yeah. Well, as a person, you change.
Even if they're traumatic experiences.
Right?
I mean, I guess they're more bonding in a way. They do say trauma bonds.
That's true. Yeah. So, I was very sad for her and to see Barb go. That was her dear friend. 171. Where would I go? Why did I write that? I guess she thinks perfecting a blind stage will revive me.
This is another letter that Frankie got.
Dear Frankie. Oh, somebody said save lives for me. So I think it was one of the friends also. I'm not sure why, but
there's race riots, war protests. So she's getting the perspective from home.
Yes, because mom is telling her what's happening back home. And I just wrote, where would I go? I don't know why I wrote that.
Okay. We need to take better notes. Lesson learned. So we can remember why we are highlighting certain things. Yes.
Where would I go?
I'm at 180, Lily, but I don't know if you have anything before that. 181.
Oh, I have 179.
Okay.
I wrote This Is Us. Why though?
How
could she leave the hospital and the casualties? American and South Vietnamese who needed her. She'd come here to make a difference, to save lives.
You know why this is us.
And God knew life still needed saving. As much as she sometimes hated the war, she loved nursing more. This is us.
We're teachers.
We're teachers and we live teaching.
Yes.
And
it's a war zone in a different kind of way.
Yes. We talk about what would we do if we were to leave.
Yeah. We don't know anything. We talk about, I don't know, maybe having a podcast about books.
and doing what we do daily. Reading all day long.
That is the only thing we would consider leaving teaching for because we love it, even though it's tough.
Exactly.
And funny you mentioned that because on page 181, I said this happens to teachers too. None of us is irreplaceable, McGrath. I have been watching you, getting reports on the level of bitchiness you've recently achieved. It's impressive. You need a break. So yes, I think our tempers are tested.
Yes.
And we always need a break, and we hardly take them. So I really identified with that quote.
Yeah, no, we definitely need time off. And yeah.
And then I jump a lot.
I jump a lot too. I think I was so into it that I'm like, oh, I forgot.
Yes, like to 244. I don't know about you.
Actually, I have something. Oh, yeah, no, you're.
So I just said that I love this metaphor.
Okay.
On 244, it says, they wanted her to just get up, stand, start to walk, as if grief were a pool you could simply step out of. So I found it interesting how grief is a pool, right? And you can't walk on it. You gotta swim, and you gotta maintain yourself above sinking level.
That metaphor.
So I thought it captured grief really well.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't just get up.
Mm-mm.
You're drowning in it.
Yeah. 255.
Yes, Lily.
The
Oh
same
my
one?
God. Yes.
The same one. It says 6 months, cancer of the lungs. Her students come by almost every day. Don't they, Elena? He touched his wife's hand. She is a high school teacher. Fierce, he added. He turned to Frankie. You heard about the walkouts, students and teachers protesting inequality in our schools. She was part of that, my Elena, weren't you? He gazed down at his wife. She fought to get her students college preparation classes instead of just training for domestic work. You changed lives, mi amor. So this is when she was a nurse already, right?
Yes, I'm trying to remember. Oh, she was back in San Diego now.
She was in San Diego.
So she's working at a hospital, and she meets this man who's with his wife. That's true.
That, cancer in the lungs. And her students love her.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, he's telling his wife, you changed lives. And so, do we do that?
I hope
teachers,
so.
Right?
I would hope so.
That even
for the better.
We changed someone's life, hopefully. I mean, we're both extremes. You're a high school teacher, I'm a kindergarten teacher. So at some point or another, I hope they think back to something memorable.
And I took a different take on that same quote. I was focusing on the protest, the inequality in our schools, the way we train our students. Is it just for domestic work, like he said, just to graduate, just to process you, or because we want you to be ready for college or for real life? So I find that, again, I keep thinking this book is supposed to take place in the 70s.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things are still, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
We still have these societal issues, problems, however you want to call them. 259 for me.
259.
Oh gosh.
Me too. What? I mean, maybe that's a different one.
We are in sync.
I wrote.
What did you write? Can we share this with the camera?
I wrote with bolillo.
That is not what I wrote on mine. Sounds like you were hungry at the time.
Oh, no, over here. She ate a piece of Wonder Bread slathered with butter and sprinkled with sugar.
Oh, gosh. It reminded you of bolillos. There you go.
Bolillo, right?
Not
butter and sugar, not Wonder Bread.
So, no, that is not what I wrote about, Lily. A little bit before that, I said it was accurate the way they described PTSD. Frankie, she says her mother eyed her nervously all the time, as if she feared Frankie was wired with explosives. And one wrong word would set her off. And Dad seemed determined not to look at her at all. So everybody's afraid to look at her, to interact with her.
I was afraid of her.
Yes.
She would go off and be like, wow. But only she knew what she was.
I feel like PTSD was really well captured in this book.
It's true.
Yeah, that's why this is one of my favorite authors.
Kristin Hannah.
Yes.
She did her research on me.
She does. She's good at it.
And then, like you said, this was, when she was home, it was already 1970s?
Early 70s. I don't remember the dates.
264. Do we have the same thing?
I have something before 260.
Oh, go ahead.
So in 260, I wrote more about PTSD. I said, no, Joy, let's unpack. It felt strangely discordant to Frankie that this staid, unchanging world of flowers and champagne and women in summery dresses persevered while men and women were dying in Vietnam. So I get why she feels that way, but I also think, aren't we allowed to feel joy in times of war and discord? Like, can't we have fun? Is it bad to have fun? Just because people are dying in other parts of the world? So I just wanted to throw it out there.
Like, we were just talking about that too, about making time for us and setting time aside to just forget about
all the big issues. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's important. That's definitely important. I think. Page 264. She knew that enforced silence added to her anxiety, increased her anger, but it was undeniably true that even her own family was ashamed of her service and expected her to be ashamed too. This is also, the message was clear, don't talk about it. They didn't want her to talk about what happened.
Well, they said she went to study abroad.
Oh, yeah, they that's right, to Florence or something, right?
Yeah,
they kind of didn't want to tell anybody where she had gone. It's almost like they were ashamed of her.
Yes.
And I wonder if there was help for them at that time in the early 1970s. Was there help for these men and women?
But remember, we found out later in the book that the system was overwhelmed, and that they didn't see her when she tried to access the VA as a soldier. So they basically told her to go away.
It was almost like she was laughed at, like you're a soldier, because she was a nurse, but even then she was a woman. So they didn't take her seriously.
278.
So,
but we can skip it. Let's go to 290. I just wrote currently. This isn't a joke, Barb said. The old white men who run this country are scared. And people do stupid, ugly things when they're scared. She leaned close, but they're counting on their power and our fear. And every minute, some woman's son is being killed over there, some girl's brother. So I felt that it's very reflective or very telling of our current political climate, you know? Then slower in that same page, I wrote the importance of using our voice. Frankie needed to do this as a veteran of Vietnam, and for Finley and Jamie and Rye. She had to add her voice to the rising scream of dissent. She had to say no more. So I think a lot of people tend to think, what's one more voice going to matter?
Yeah.
What would it make a difference if I say something?
Wow.
And the problem is that a lot of people think like that, and then, you know,
and then nothing
gets done. Yeah. 325?
321 for me. I wrote, she found a purpose and an outlet for anger. Writing letters on behalf of the League of Families and the Vietnam prisoners of war quickly became an obsession. So she started writing letters to the families. Remember this part,
either the families or maybe Congress. Yeah, she lists like the people, like she lists a bunch of politicians. So she was writing to different political figures, I think. To give them to talk about her experience. More. And again, here we see the importance of activism, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the things, you know, that a lot of us think is that in order to show patriotism and courage, you have to become a soldier and go to war. But there's many things you can do to show patriotism and courage. There's little acts and large acts. And something as simple as writing to the decision makers is equally important.
Yeah. And she found it. It was an obsession for her, and it's almost like that helped her, because then maybe her voice wasn't being heard verbally or orally, but putting it in writing helped her, I guess.
And I think we've talked about this before too, you know, the importance of doing something productive with your anger.
Yes.
Which is what she started to do towards the middle of this book. Like, you know, she found a productive way to handle her frustration. 325. I just wrote about the bracelets. I didn't know that they made bracelets.
Yes, so I looked it up.
One of the things that we enjoyed about this book is we learned a lot of things that we didn't know. So do you remember the details of this? So the bracelets were made with the names of soldiers that were MIA or that had prisoners of war. So prisoners of war, and the idea was to not forget them, right?
Not to forget them.
Yes, not to forget them. And to wear these bracelets and honor them.
And there's a website now that you can go and you buy one of these bracelets to wear it.
we're gonna have to get some bracelets.
Yeah, it's a organization, right?
Yeah.
Money that goes to there. Hopefully, it's and to bring peace to some families too, because what happened to their loved ones, right? Yeah. I only have 2 left, so you might have more.
336. So I'm gonna age myself.
Oh.
I was born in 1972. And I've learned that a lot of interesting things have happened that year. And so I learned one here. I had learned that year, not in this book, but just a fun fact, was the year where women were allowed to have credit cards. Before that, we could not have credit cards. We had to be sponsored by a man.
Wow.
So things have changed.
In your lifetime?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
So here it says, it was finally legal for single women to get the pill. In 1972. So before that, single women had to be married in order to get the pill. So I just think, like, I'm not that old. Like, like what? Wow! Like all these things that we take for granted now as women that women back then could not have access to.
They didn't have access
like
to
a credit card or the pill.
Or the pill.
Yes.
Or jobs.
Yes. 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 That's true.
Yeah.
So in 360, I wrote something about the flyer. They'd been given a flyer. So I want to read what the flyer says. I don't know why I was impacted by this. It's in italics. We don't know what shape the men will be in, physically or emotionally. As you know, there have been reports of torture. For these reasons, we suggest you plan your reunions carefully. Keep your husband in a quiet setting until he tells you he's ready for more. No big parties, no magazine or television interviews, no loud noises or big expectations. Some of these men, as you well know, have lived in captivity in harsh conditions for up to 8 years. This will have taken an extreme toll on their minds and bodies. Do not expect them to be themselves right away. Expect them to be sexually impotent and prone to hostility toward those they love. So these are the flyers that they were given, that women were given, women that were married to POWs. And I just thought, wow.
Yeah.
Right? How sad.
Yeah, because they don't know what shape their husbands. Yeah. This is when they were waiting for them to come home, right? After they were found.
And
yeah, that's.
And then in page 372, I wrote something about post-COVID. Yeah, I said we're back to not talking again. So Mom and Frances are talking, and Mom says, some things don't bear the weight of words. That's the problem with your generation. You all want to talk. What is the point? I thought you could give your child a name and engrave it there below your sisters and wear it. So just the idea that, I guess back then people wanted to talk about things, and I feel that now people don't want to talk all over again. You know, kids, the younger generation is just shutting down. They don't want to talk about their problems. They don't want to talk to each other. So,
no.
Yeah.
No.
473.
Okay. I wrote, would you rather be dead?
And bear with us. It was a 400-page book. It was a lot to learn. Almost there. What did you write, Lily? 373?
I put, what did I write there? Hold on, I can't speak. Would you rather be dead?
Oh.
Yikes. Frances, enough Vietnam, for God's sake. That was a year ago. Let it go. He's not coming back to you. This is when she was with her friends. She closed her eyes in pain, unable to look at her mother anymore. Oh, no, her mom.
Mm-hmm.
Unable to see pity and sorrow and know that it was for her. The pilot who was killed, I think this is when she finds out that Riley, who she liked or fell in love with, or kind of in Hawaii. They
yes, we forgot to mention that. Yes,
they went to Hawaii, and Riley was there and said, "I'm not engaged anymore," which was actually true. He twisted the truth a little bit. He was not engaged. He was actually married, but
she believed. She interpreted it a different way.
Yes, and then she thought he had died, right?
Yes.
But
he was MIA.
Yeah, he was MIA. He actually came home.
It turns out he was a POW.
He was a POW, came home. But then when she went to go and greet
and welcome him home,
somebody else was there greeting him.
His wife, with his daughter.
So, and I wrote, would you rather be dead? And like her. so much has been thrown at her.
I have to say, Lily, that I was shocked every step of it. Like, all the plot twists got me. I did not see any of them coming.
Yeah, there was quite a few.
I believed Jamie was dead, and then he wasn't. I believed Riley was dead, and then he wasn't.
Yeah, I believed he had broken his engagement. He hadn't.
Then I was hoping her brother would be alive, because I'm like, everybody's come back to life.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, and that didn't happen. So yeah, I was thinking the same thing too. I only have one more of this.
So page 400 for me. Yes, at the very bottom I wrote, is it ever okay? So this is when she is already, well, let me read it. I'm not sure. How could she possibly be granted such grace after an affair? God and goodness and grace demanded change for redemption. So she had an affair with Riley, right? Because he kept saying, I'm going to leave her.
Oh, yes.
Who I really love is you. So she believed him, and they had an affair. And so now she feels that she is not deserving of a happy ending because she engaged in this affair. And he justified the affair. He said he couldn't leave her for whatever reasons. I forget what they were. So my question was, is it ever okay to have an affair? When is it justified and when is it not? And I guess you'd have to read the book to really, to really get her perspective. But I think she decided to do it too, because at this point she was like, I've lost so much. Yeah, I'm going to cling on to what is being offered to me. Yeah, but ultimately she did regret it. Yeah, to the point where she hated herself. Yeah. On 422, I wrote the history of Valium. I thought it was interesting. Fun facts. Let me read to you. So her mom shared some magic pills that she was taking to help her, and she started taking them and she became addicted. So it says the yellow pills you've been taking, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, diazepam, more commonly called Valium. But I'm sure you know that. The Rolling Stones called them Mother's Little Helpers. He went to his desk, pulled out a magazine, opened it to the advertisement with the headline, "Now She Can Cope," which showed a woman in an apron smiling broadly as she vacuumed. Docs have been prescribing them like candy to women for years. So I just thought, the fact how careless the decision makers are with such a potent drug. And history keeps repeating itself. Which one's the one Ozempic is out right now. Everybody's using it to lose weight and other things. That other painkiller, there's been so many documentaries about it. I forget what it's called. That people became addicted to as well. So it's unnerving, money. Yes, to see that ultimately it's about making money. You're right. And then on page 424, we see a little bit about the history of PTSD. And because I like history, I wanted to read this one to you too. It's called post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a bit controversial. They haven't added it to the APA manual yet. But we're seeing similar symptoms in your fellow vets. What you're experiencing is a familiar response to trauma. So I didn't know that the PTSD diagnosis was that recent. Right. That is dated back to the Vietnam War. I didn't really know how far back it went. But I guess I assumed that it was older than the 70s. Yeah. That they didn't have a name for it until then.
But I'm sure Frankie, knowing there's a name to it, feels like, okay, she can move on, hopefully forward with treatment or something. Because before, don't talk about it, forget about it. But now it's like, no, there's other people that...
Now that there's a name for it, now that it's acknowledged, it's like...
Acknowledged, yes.
Now it's...
Validated. Yes. Her feelings are validated. Her emotions, they're real, not just to her, but to others as well.
Yeah. So I want to read another paragraph on 426. I don't know why. Let's see and we'll find out. There's no going back, Frankie. You have to find a way to go forward. Become the new you. Fighting for who you were at 21 is a losing game. If that's what you've been trying for, no wonder you're struggling. The naive, idealistic girl who volunteered for war is gone. In a very real way, she died over there. So I just thought that it was good to remind her, whoever we were in the past, we can no longer be that person. And we have to move forward, right? Just in life in general. And then I said that I love this on page 429. Let's see what I love. Frankie had never known before that words could heal, at least be the beginning of healing. I agree. I believe in the power of words and just talking about things. And I think that's what Frankie learned here. And then over here on page 432, I love this too. What they said about the dark side of love. What he'd really been saying was, I don't want to love you. So this is Ryle. So she kept trying to rationalize her relationship with him. She loved him, he loved her. But she also now knows that not all love is good for you. And that this was dark love and that she needed to reject it. It was not good for her.
439. Do you have something before?
No, you go.
There's nothing there.
It's just a post-it that kind of landed there. Every more. Are you done?
I think so. At first, she'd hoped her apology would be a beginning, the start of reparations, maybe a healing that could only be through conversation. She longed to tell him he'd hurt her and understand why he'd been so cold and dismissive about her service in Vietnam. But it was not to be. He had no interest in talking about it. He wanted to pretend the war had never torn this family apart. Oh, her dad.
Oh, her dad, yes.
Yeah, because he never wanted to talk about it. Sometimes hurt didn't quite heal. That was like, I need to talk to you guys, she said. That doesn't sound good. I don't know what happened there, but I don't know.
And you mentioned her dad. Let's recall that her dad never accepted her, barely talked to her, saw her as a problem. But at the same time, well, they did kick her out when she got into that DUI. They let her live there at their home. Yeah. But he did kick her out.
Yeah.
And that's when she left.
She was too much for them to handle.
Yeah, and she was too much.
She was a lot. But at the end, I do think he did say, right, I'm proud of you, or something to that.
She really needed that validation. It took 400 pages for her to get it.
Yeah.
I wrote something about many goodbyes on page 442. They'd said goodbye a dozen times and in a dozen ways in the last month. I think this is Frankie saying goodbye to her friends. And despite all those goodbyes, they still keep coming back to each other.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about the power of friendship, right? How even though they lived in different states, and their lives developed differently, and they engaged in different interests, they were always there for each other.
Without social media, without cell phones, they would pick up the phone.
Even if they were broke, it's on the money.
Right there.
Yes.
And I'm like, right there. Where are you coming from? Like,
I'm gonna take a plane.
Just to be with her, because it sounds like maybe they were able to cope better. Were they stronger? I don't know.
And it's interesting because what makes you cope better? If I had to bet, it would have been Frankie, right? She had the financial security with her parents, whereas the other two, we don't know much about them, but I know that they were I think they were not in as good shape financially as. But I guess money doesn't guarantee that you are going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. It's almost like the other girls, Barb and Ethel. They're like, you know what? We got to make it. We have nothing to fall back on.
Yeah,
so they powered through. And they were the ones that were holding her up for a long time.
Yes, many times.
Yeah, and towards the end, she does somehow find a way to Montana. She leaves Coronado Island and drives.
Oh, yeah.
Wherever.
Road trip. Yes. With one of her friends. I forget which one. Yes. I think one of them goes with her.
Okay. To Montana. She opens up a ranch or buys a ranch, right?
Yes. She sells her parents gave her a bungalow.
Oh, she sells that.
So she sells that. She's like, I got to leave.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to drive. I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then, so I wrote here on page 455 that it's the same half a century later. Somebody said, it's in a letter, it's hard to see clearly when the world is angry and divided and you're being lied to. And I just thought, wow, it's happening right now, today.
Currently. Divided
and being lied to.
And being lied
on a daily basis. Finally, on 459, I wrote something about dehumanization. Frankie reached out to touch the stone. Oh, the stone, remember that Jamie... So let's talk about the stone before I read it.
Yeah.
Remember
that?
Okay, tell us, Lily. A stone.
The stone was given to Frankie by a little Vietnamese boy in a town that they went to go treat. Because on their days off, they would go in and treat.
Vaccinate.
Vaccinate.
Things like that.
Give medicine to the villagers. And there was a little boy that gave her a stone. And she held on to that stone. And when it was time for Jamie to leave, she wrote on one side, I forgot what she wrote. I should remember this. What did she write?
I forget what she wrote, but he was blown up and they were taking him away to get medical treatment in a helicopter. And so she gave him this stone, hold on, or be strong, or something like that. Something that he would always tell her.
She put it in his knapsack. And towards the end, we find out he's always had it. He's always had it because he comes back to life.
He's also... they saw each other at the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. They just happened to stand there at the same time. And he tells her, I still have this stone. And maybe that's what I selected here. He brings out, to her surprise, it was warm. She traced the etching of her brother's name, remembering the sound of his laughter, the way he teased her, the stories he read her before bed. I'm going to be a great American novelist. Here, Frankie, that's your wave. So she is in front of the memorial and her brother's name is there. And it just reminds, you've been to Washington, so have I. I stood before that memorial. And you look at the names, right? And I mean, even though you don't want to make it, you don't want to dehumanize those names. Like every name has a story. I think reading that reminded me like that's somebody's brother, that's somebody's husband. And I forget the number. She does say the number in the book. Like, I don't know, thousands and thousands of names are on that memorial. So the stone said, you fight. You fight. Yes.
And he held on to that. And it traveled with him through this whole time. And then she found him again in D.C. I was waiting for the brother to come back to life, but no.
So that's it.
That was the women. That was
we loved it. We cried.
It was a good one. It was a good book.
Highly recommend it.
Highly recommend it. Yeah.
The end.
I would love. I would love to see this in a movie.
Oh yes.
I would love to.
Reese Witherspoon. Listen to us. Make it up. Reese. Who else makes movies? Oprah. Somebody. Obama. The Obamas do too.
Really?
Somebody pick it up. Yes.
Tyler Perry.
Hulu. Yes. Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry.
Yes. We love Tyler. Thank you for watching. Oh, stay tuned for our next episode. We will be talking about Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult and another author that
I learned it's Pico.
We can't pronounce her name and we can't remember the second author, but it's called Mad Honey. You got to read it so you know what we're talking about.
It's a good one. It's filled with twists.
So just so you learn about what brings us together, historical fiction, murder mystery. So that's kind of what the type of book we're reading.
We do venture out to others. We respect each other's choices.
Yes.
And any ideas?
Yes, let us know.
Any book you would like us to read?
Yes.
And talk about? We'll do it.
Yes. Until next time.